The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Confederation Academy floated silently in space, its transparent walls showing the swirling blue and green surface of Kepler 442b below. Inside the main lecture hall, hundreds of alien students from across the galaxy sat in their specially designed seats, each accommodation fitting their unique biology. Professor Velther stood at the front of the room, his crystalline body catching and reflecting the soft lights in beautiful patterns. His species, the Helix, were known throughout the galaxy as the finest teachers and scholars. Today, however, even his usually calm demeanor showed hints of excitement. "Students," Professor Velther began, his voice resonating through the translation devices worn by each alien. "Today marks a historic moment in galactic education." The chatter in the room died down immediately. Kira, a young Zephyrian student, leaned forward in her seat. Her skin glowed with soft blue bioluminescent patterns that pulsed faster when she was curious. Next to her sat Brock, a massive Gorvanian, whose rocky, stone-like skin made him look like a walking boulder. Despite his intimidating appearance, Brock was known for his gentle nature and love of learning. In the front row, Pip squeaked softly to himself. The tiny creature was no bigger than a house cat, but his species, the squeakers, had brain capacity that put most other races to shame. His large, round eyes focused intently on the professor. Floating slightly above her seat was Nala, whose ethereal form seemed to exist partially in another dimension. Her translucent body shimmered as she moved, and her voice always sounded like it came from somewhere far away. For the first time in galactic history, Professor Velther continued, "The Galactic Council has approved a student exchange program with the planet known as Earth." A wave of excited murmurs swept through the hall. Earth was legendary among alien species, though few knew much about it. The planet had been kept classified by the Galactic Council for centuries, with only the highest-level officials having any real information about it. Kira's bioluminescent patterns flashed bright yellow with excitement. "Professor," she called out, "why has Earth been classified for so long?" Professor Velther's crystalline face shifted into what might have been a smile. "An excellent question, Kira. Earth has been classified due to what the Council calls unique environmental factors. However, recent diplomatic advances have made this exchange possible." Brock raised one of his massive stone hands. "What kind of environmental factors?" While the professor said, consulting his holographic notes, "Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld according to galactic standards." The room fell silent. Even Pip stopped his usual squeaking at Deathworld. Nala's ethereal voice whispered from her floating position, "But Professor, how can any intelligent life exist on a Deathworld?" Professor Velther waved a dismissive crystalline hand. "The classification system is often overly cautious. Many worlds are given high danger ratings simply due to bureaucratic procedures. Earth's inhabitants, known as humans, have clearly adapted well to their environment." Kira's patterns shifted to a curious green color. "What are humans like, Professor?" "From what we understand, they are bipedal mammals with remarkable diversity in appearance. They have no natural armor like our friend Brock here, no bioluminescent communication like Kira, no enhanced cognitive abilities like Pip, and they exist entirely in this dimension unlike Nala." "They sound rather ordinary," Brock rumbled, his rocky voice echoing slightly. "Indeed," Professor Velther agreed, "which makes their survival on a classified Deathworld quite interesting from a scientific perspective." Pip's tiny voice piped up. "What kind of dangers does Earth have?" The professor consulted his notes again. "The reports mention something called aggressive fauna, though I suspect this refers to normal predator-prey relationships. There are also warnings about unstable weather patterns and toxic atmospheric composition, but these are likely standard environmental variations." The students exchanged glances. Their own worlds were peaceful places where the most dangerous creature might be something equivalent to a slightly aggressive flower, and weather meant gentle breezes and soft rain. "The atmospheric composition warning probably refers to their oxygen levels," Professor Velther continued. "Earth's atmosphere contains about 21% oxygen, which is quite high by galactic standards. You'll need breathing apparatus to adjust." 21%, Nala gasped, her form flickering. "That's enough to make metal rust rapidly. An interesting chemical process to observe." The professor nodded. "Now, who would like to volunteer for this historic exchange?" Every hand, claw, tentacle, and appendage in the room shot up immediately. Professor Velther's crystalline body sparkled with amusement. "Excellent enthusiasm. However, for safety reasons, we can only send for students initially." The selection process took hours. Students presented their qualifications, their research interests, and their ability to handle new environments. In the end, the four chosen were exactly who everyone expected: Kira for her adaptability studies, Brock for his geological expertise, Pip for his analytical abilities, and Nala for her unique perspective on dimensional physics. 3 days later, the four selected students sat in the briefing room, signing what seemed like endless paperwork. The liability waivers were particularly extensive. "Why do we need to acknowledge that we understand the risks of atmospheric electrical discharge events?" Kira asked, her patterns flashing confused orange. The administrative assistant, a nervous fluttering named Zip, consulted his tablet. "I believe that refers to something called lightning. It's apparently a common weather phenomenon on Earth." "Lightning?" Brock asked. "What's that?" "From what I understand," Zip said, his wings fluttering anxiously, "it's when the sky shoots bolts of electrical energy at the ground." The four students stared at him. "The sky attacks the ground," Pip squeaked. "Regularly, according to these reports," Zep confirmed. "But I'm sure it's not as dramatic as it sounds." More forms followed. They had to acknowledge understanding of concepts like temperature variations exceeding survival parameters, gravitational stress factors, and something called biological contamination protocols. "What's biological contamination?" Nala asked, her ethereal form shimmering with concern. "Oh, that's simple," Zep replied. "Earth apparently has microscopic life forms everywhere. In the air, on surfaces, even inside the humans themselves. Inside them," Brock's rocky face showed horror. "Trillions of them, according to this report. But don't worry, the humans seem to function normally despite the invasion." Finally, after signing the last form, the students were cleared for departure. Their transport ship, the Gentle Wanderer, was a top-of-the-line vessel designed for safe travel to potentially hazardous worlds. As they boarded, Captain Rix, a seasoned tentacled pilot, greeted them. "Welcome aboard, students. I've never flown to Earth before, but how dangerous could it be?" The ship's departure was smooth, and for the first few days of travel, everything seemed routine. The students spent their time reviewing what little information was available about Earth and its human inhabitants. "Look at this," Pip said, sharing a holographic image. "Humans apparently keep other Earth creatures as companions." The image showed a human child sitting next to a four-legged furry creature with large teeth. "That looks like a predator," Brock observed. "The report calls it a dog," Kira read. "Apparently humans have made them friendly through something called domestication. They've tamed predators." Nala's voice carried amazement as they traveled deeper into what the star charts labeled as Sol System. Strange things began happening. The ship's electronics started behaving erratically. Lights flickered, the navigation system gave contradictory readings, and the communication array picked up bursts of energy from seemingly empty space. Captain Rix called the students to the bridge on their final day of travel. Through the main viewport they could see a medium-sized yellow star ahead of them. "That's Sol," the captain said, but his voice carried a note of concern. "Earth's star. It's very bright," Kira observed, her bioluminescent patterns dimming automatically in response. "An active," Captain Rix muttered, checking his instruments. "I've never seen stellar radiation levels like this. How does anything survive in this system?" As if in response to his question, the ship's sensors detected movement. Massive chunks of rock and metal were floating throughout the system, some as large as small moons. "What are those?" Pip asked. Captain Rix consulted his star charts, his tentacles moving frantically over the controls. "According to this, they're called asteroids. The entire system is filled with them. Floating rocks." Brock was fascinated. "How wonderful, wonderful." The captain's voice rose an octave. "These things are moving at incredible speeds. One collision could destroy a ship." As they watched, a particularly large asteroid tumbled past, close enough for them to see its scarred and cratered surface. "This whole system is like a cosmic shooting gallery," Captain Rix whispered to himself. Then, louder, "How could anything evolve in a place like this?" The students looked at each other with growing uncertainty. This was supposed to be an educational exchange, but everything they were seeing suggested that Earth might be far more dangerous than anyone had told them. The landing shuttle touched down on what the humans called a secure platform in the middle of Earth's Amazon rainforest. As the doors opened, the four alien students were immediately hit by a wall of hot, wet air that felt like breathing soup. Kira stepped out first, and her bioluminescent patterns immediately went haywire. Instead of her usual controlled blue glow, wild streaks of yellow, orange, and red flashed across her skin in rapid succession. "Something's wrong with my light control," she gasped, trying to steady herself. Brock followed, his massive stone body making heavy thuds on the metal platform. Within seconds, moisture began forming on his rocky surface. Why is the air so thick? He rumbled, sounding uncomfortable for the first time since anyone had known him. Pip emerged next, his tiny body trembling as his sensitive ears picked up sounds from every direction. The forest around them was alive with noises, chirping, buzzing, calling, rustling, a constant symphony that never stopped. Too loud, he squeaked, covering his large ears with his small paws. Nala floated out last, her ethereal form flickering more than usual. The dimensional barriers here feel... unstable, she whispered, her voice carrying notes of confusion. A tall human male approached them, wearing clothes that looked practical but worn. His skin was tanned from sun exposure, and he moved with an easy confidence that seemed strange in such a chaotic environment. "Welcome to Earth," he said with a wide smile that showed his teeth. "I'm Dr. Marcus Webb, your guide for this exchange program." The alien students stared at him. This was their first close look at a human, and he seemed remarkably calm considering the hostile environment surrounding them. Dr. Webb noticed their discomfort. "First time experiencing tropical humidity?" he asked. "Don't worry, you'll get used to it. The research station has climate control." "Climate control?" Kira asked, her patterns still flashing wildly. "Air conditioning," Dr. Webb explained. "We modify the air temperature and moisture levels to make it more comfortable." "You can control the weather?" Brock asked in amazement. Dr. Webb laughed. "Just indoors. Outside, Earth's weather does whatever it wants." He led them toward a building that looked sturdy but small compared to the grand structures they were used to on other worlds. As they walked, the students became more aware of their surroundings. The trees around them were massive, reaching heights that seemed impossible. Vines hung everywhere, creating a maze of green that blocked most of their view. The ground beneath their feet was soft and spongy, made of rotting plant matter that released strange smells with each step. "This is one of Earth's more stable ecosystems," Dr. Webb said casually as they walked. "The Amazon rainforest has been here for millions of years." "Stable?" Pip squeaked, jumping as something rustled in the bushes nearby. "Well, relatively stable," Dr. Webb corrected. "The species composition changes constantly. Of course, evolution never stops here." Kira's patterns shifted to worried purple. "Evolution is still happening." "Oh yes," Dr. Webb nodded. "Earth's environments are constantly changing, so life has to keep adapting or go extinct. It's quite fascinating, actually." They reached the research station, which was a collection of buildings connected by covered walkways. The moment they stepped inside, the alien students felt some relief from the oppressive heat and humidity. "But," Dr. Webb asked. Much Nala sighed, her form becoming more solid. Dr. Webb showed them to their quarters, which were simple but comfortable rooms with large windows looking out into the forest. "We'll start with some basic orientation tomorrow," he said. "But for now, why don't you get some rest and adjust to the local time cycle?" That night, none of the students slept. Well, the forest never became quiet. Even through the walls of the research station, they could hear the constant sounds of life, calls, movements, and stranger noises they couldn't identify. Kira's room faced directly into the forest canopy. As she lay in her bed, her bioluminescent patterns continued to flicker uncontrollably in response to every sound. Through her window, she could see other lights moving through the trees, the glowing eyes of nocturnal creatures. Brock discovered that Earth's gravity was slightly stronger than what he was used to, making his already heavy stone body feel even more massive. The moisture in the air was also affecting his rocky skin in ways he had never experienced. Pip spent most of the night with his sensitive ears covered, overwhelmed by the acoustic complexity of the rainforest. Every small sound made him jump. Expecting danger, Nala found that her ability to phase between dimensions was being affected by something in Earth's environment. The barriers between realities seemed thicker here, requiring more effort to maintain her ethereal form. The next morning, Dr. Webb found them all looking tired and stressed. "Rough night?" he asked sympathetically. "Earth can be overwhelming at first. Even humans from quiet areas find the rainforest intense." "Are all Earth environments like this?" Kira asked, her patterns a dim, exhausted blue. "Oh no," Dr. Webb said cheerfully, "this is actually one of the calmer ones. Wait until you see a proper storm, or a desert, or the ocean during feeding season." The students exchanged worried glances. "But let's start simple," Dr. Webb continued. "How about a gentle nature walk? I'll show you some of the local flora and fauna." What Dr. Webb called a gentle nature walk turned into the most terrifying experience of their lives. Their first stop was a tree covered in beautiful, colorful insects. Pip, being naturally curious about small creatures, approached to get a better look. "Careful," Dr. Webb said casually. Those butterflies are poisonous, Pip froze. Poisonous. Their wings contain toxins that can paralyze small animals. Dr. Webb explained. They're quite beautiful though, aren't they? Pip backed away quickly. On his world, the most dangerous creature was roughly equivalent to an earth dandelion. As they continued walking, Brock noticed a line of small black insects moving across the path. What are these? He asked, kneeling down for a closer look. Army ants, Dr. Webb replied. I wouldn't get too close if I were you. Why? Brock asked, just as the ants seemed to notice him. Within seconds, thousands more ants appeared from the surrounding vegetation, forming aggressive formations. They're territorial, Dr. Webb explained, gently pulling Brock back, and they have a very painful bite. They can strip a large animal to bones in hours if it can't get away. Brock's rocky skin suddenly didn't feel like adequate protection. Nala, floating above the group, found that her ethereal form was attracting attention from creatures that shouldn't have been able to see her. Birds were calling in alarm, and something large was moving through the trees, tracking their progress. Dr. Webb, she whispered, something is following us. Dr. Webb listened carefully to the forest sounds. Probably just a jaguar, he said with disturbing calm. They're curious about new scents. Jaguar. Kira's patterns flashed bright red with alarm. Big cat, apex predator. Don't worry, they rarely attack groups of people. Rarely, Pip squeaked. Well, they prefer to hunt alone, and we're clearly not their usual prey, Dr. Webb explained. Though you do smell quite different from anything else in the forest. The walk continued, with each new discovery being more disturbing than the last. Dr. Webb pointed out plants that could kill with a touch, insects that could inject paralyzing venom, and trees that grew by strangling other trees to death. How do humans survive here? Nala asked, her voice barely audible. We don't live in the forest, Dr. Webb said. We just visit for research. Though some indigenous peoples have lived here for thousands of years, they've learned to work with the environment. Work with it? Brock asked. Adapt to it. Use its resources while respecting its dangers. It's quite remarkable, actually. As they walked deeper into the forest, the sounds around them changed. The normal chatter of birds and insects was replaced by a tense quiet that made even Dr. Webb pause. That's interesting, he murmured, looking around carefully. What? Kira asked, her patterns now cycling through every color she could produce. The forest just went quiet, Dr. Webb said. That usually means a large predator is nearby. Before any of the students could respond, a deep rumbling growl echoed through the trees from somewhere behind them. Dr. Webb's relaxed demeanor shifted slightly. He reached into his backpack and pulled out what looked like a weapon, though it was unlike any weapon the students had seen before. What is that? Pip asked, staring at the long metal object. Tranquilizer gun, Dr. Webb replied, just in case we need to discourage any overly curious wildlife. Discourage? Nala's form flickered with panic. It won't hurt them permanently, Dr. Webb assured her. Just puts them to sleep. Another growl, closer this time. Perhaps we should head back to the station, Dr. Webb suggested with the same casual tone he might use to suggest a cup of tea. As they turned to retrace their steps, something large moved through the undergrowth parallel to their path. They could see flashes of golden fur between the green leaves. Is that the jaguar? Brock whispered. Dr. Webb glanced in the direction of the movement. Actually, that's bigger than a jaguar. The students didn't ask what could be bigger than an apex predator. They were beginning to understand that on Earth, there was always something bigger, more dangerous, and more willing to see them as either a threat or a meal. The transport vehicle bumped along the rough road through the Siberian wilderness. Dr. Webb sat in the front seat next to their new guide, a large bearded human named Viktor Petrov. The four alien students huddled together in the back, still recovering from their Amazon experience. Why are we going to even more dangerous places? Pip squeaked nervously, his small body shivering despite the vehicle's heating system. Dr. Webb said, we need to understand Earth's ecosystem diversity. Kira replied, though her bioluminescent patterns showed she was just as worried. The cold was affecting her light production, making her patterns dim and sluggish. Victor turned around with a wide grin that showed several gold teeth. Do not worry, little friends. Siberia is much safer than jungle. Here you can see danger coming from long distance. Brock, whose rocky exterior was actually helping him handle the cold better than the others, looked out at the endless expanse of snow-covered forest. It's so ... empty. Empty. Victor laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Siberia is full of life. You just need to know where to look. The vehicle stopped at a remote research station that looked more like a military outpost than the comfortable facility they had left in the Amazon. The buildings were thick-walled and heavily insulated, with small windows and reinforced doors. "Why does everything look like a fortress?" Nala asked, her ethereal form becoming more solid in the cold air. "Winter here gets to -50 degrees, Victor explained. "Buildings must be strong, or cold will kill you in minutes." Inside the station, they met Luna Martinez, a marine biologist who had flown in from Australia. She was a compact woman with sun-weathered skin and calloused hands that spoke of years working in harsh environments. "Welcome to my favorite season," Luna said cheerfully. "I love winter fieldwork, favorite." Kira's patterns flickered with confusion. "The cold keeps the really dangerous stuff inactive," Luna explained. "Summer here is when you have to worry about bears, wolves, and mosquitoes, the size of small aircraft." The students stared at her. "Mosquitoes, blood-sucking insects," Dr. Webb explained. "They can drain a person dry if they swarm." Victor clapped his hands together. "Enough talk. Time for practical lesson. We go see local wildlife." The alien students exchanged terrified glances, but they had no choice but to follow. Their first stop was a clearing where Victor had set up feeding stations. "Today we study brown bears," he announced casually. "Bears." Pip's voice went so high, it was barely audible. "Large mammals, apex predators in this region," Dr. Webb explained. "They can weigh up to 800 kilograms. Before anyone could protest, Victor pulled out what looked like a container of food and began making loud, calling sounds. Within minutes, a massive brown shape emerged from the tree line. The bear was enormous. It stood nearly 3 meters tall on its hind legs, with claws longer than Pip's entire body. Its small, dark eyes focused on the group of strange visitors. Kira's bioluminescent patterns went completely white with terror. Brock, despite his stone-like appearance, began backing away slowly. Nala's ethereal form became so unstable she was barely visible. Victor, however, walked directly toward the bear. "Victor, no," Dr. Webb called out, but he sounded more concerned, then panicked. "Is safe," Victor called back. "This is Marsha. I know her since she was cub." The bear dropped to all fours and approached Victor with what could only be described as familiarity. Victor reached into his container and began hand-feeding the massive predator like it was a pet. "This is impossible," Brock whispered. "That creature could tear him apart." "Bears are actually quite intelligent," Dr. Webb explained, though he kept his tranquilizer gun ready. "Victor has been studying this population for 20 years. Some individuals can learn to recognize friendly humans." "Friendly humans?" Nala's voice was barely a whisper. Victor scratched behind the bear's ears while it ate from his hand. "Marsha is preparing for winter sleep. She needs many calories, so she comes to feeding station." "Winter sleep?" Pip asked. "Hibernation," Luna explained. "Bears shut down their body functions for months to survive when food is scarce. Their heart rate drops to 8 beats per minute, and they don't eat, drink, or eliminate waste for up to 7 months." The alien students watched in amazement as Victor continued interacting with the bear. On their worlds, any creature that size would be either a feared monster or a revered deity. Here, it was apparently just another part of the local ecosystem. After the bear feeding, Luna took them to a frozen lake where she had cut a hole in the ice. "Time for the next lesson," she said, putting on what looked like a thick rubber suit. "What are you doing?" Kira asked. "Freediving," Luna replied. "The water under the ice is actually warmer than the air, and the marine life here is fascinating." "You're going underwater?" Nala's form flickered with disbelief. "In frozen water. It's only about 4 degrees below zero," Luna said as if this was perfectly reasonable. "I'll only be down for about 10 minutes. Before anyone could stop her, Luna slipped into the dark water and disappeared beneath the ice. "She die?" Pip squeaked. "Humans can hold their breath for surprisingly long periods," Dr. Webb said calmly. "The current record is over 20 minutes. 20 minutes without breathing." Brock's rocky face showed pure astonishment. 10 minutes. Later, Luna surfaced with a gasp, her face red from the cold but her eyes bright with excitement. "Amazing," she said, pulling herself out of the water. "There's a whole ecosystem down there. Fish, plants, even some small predators." "Predators live under the ice?" Kira asked. "Life finds a way everywhere on Earth," Dr. Webb explained, "even in environments that seem impossible to survive." Their final stop was a small farming community where they met an elderly woman named Anna who lived alone in a cabin surrounded by forest. "Anna has been living here for 60 years, Victor explained. "She will show you her pest control." Anna led them to her barn where she introduced them to what she called her working cats. The cats were small, furry creatures that looked harmless, enough until Anna opened a container of what she called mouse problems. The students watched in horror as the cats transformed from cute, purring animals into efficient killing machines. They moved with deadly precision, their reflexes faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. These little redditors can kill dozens of rodents in a single night, Anna explained proudly. Without them, the mice would eat all my grain stores. Those tiny creatures are predators, Brock asked in disbelief. Very successful ones. Dr. Webb nodded. Cats are responsible for more small animal deaths than almost any other predator on Earth. One of the cats rubbed against Brock's leg, purring. The massive stone-skinned alien jumped backward in fear. It's showing affection. Anna laughed. Cats purr when they're happy. It was threatening me, Brock protested. Actually, that cat could have probably hurt you if it wanted to, Dr. Webb said thoughtfully. Cats have very sharp claws and teeth, and they're incredibly fast. As if to prove his point, the cat suddenly pounced on a shadow, moving so quickly it was just a blur. Its claws extended, revealing razor-sharp weapons that could easily slice through most materials. Brock stared at the small predator with new respect and fear. That evening, back at the research station, the 4 students sat around a heating unit trying to process what they had learned. The humans treat apex predators like pets, Kira said. Her pattern's a confused mix of colors, and their pets are also predators, Pip added, still watching the door nervously in case any cats appeared. Everything here is designed to kill something else, Nala observed. How do humans fit into this ecosystem? That's what I'm beginning to wonder, Brock said quietly. On our worlds, we avoid predators. Here, humans seem to live alongside them. Dr. Webb overheard their conversation as he passed by. Actually, he said, humans are also predators. We just don't look like traditional ones. The students stared at him. Redditors, Kira asked. We're omnivores with binocular vision, which is a predator trait, Dr. Webb explained. Our eyes face forward to judge distance when hunting, not to the sides like prey animals, but you're so, friendly, Pip protested. Dr. Webb smiled, showing his teeth. We're social predators. We hunt in groups. For the first time since arriving on Earth, the alien students looked at their human guides with something approaching fear. Don't worry, Dr. Webb added. We evolved past needing to hunt most of our food, though we still have the instincts. As the students tried to sleep that night, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were surrounded by predators who had learned to act friendly. The specialized vehicle rolled across the flat plains of Kansas, its reinforced windows and extra communication equipment marking it as something built for extreme conditions. Jake Morrison sat behind the wheel, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon while various weather monitoring devices beeped and chirped around him. Welcome to Tornado Alley, Jake announced cheerfully to his passengers. Best place on Earth to study severe weather. The 4 alien students sat strapped into heavily padded seats, still trying to recover from their previous experiences with Earth's predators. Now they were about to face something Dr. Webb had casually mentioned as atmospheric phenomena. What exactly is a tornado? Kira asked, her bioluminescent patterns showing nervous yellow flickers. It's when air starts spinning really fast, Jake explained, adjusting a radar device. Wind speeds can reach over 300 kilometers per hour. 300, Pip squeaked. That's faster than most spacecraft. And it's just ... Brock asked, his rocky features showing confusion. Air, debris, sometimes entire buildings, Jake said casually. Tornadoes can pick up pretty much anything and throw it around like toys. Nala's ethereal form shimmered with concern. The atmosphere attacks things, not attacks. Exactly, Jake corrected. It's more like the atmosphere gets excited and needs to release energy. Tornadoes are just one way it does that. The sky above them was unlike anything the students had seen on their peaceful homeworlds. Massive clouds towered into the atmosphere, their tops reaching heights that seemed impossible. The clouds were dark, almost black in places, and they moved with obvious purpose. Those clouds look angry, Pip observed, pressing his face to the window. Good eye. Jake nodded approvingly. Those are cumulonimbus clouds. They can reach up to 18 kilometers high and contain more energy than several nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons? Kira's patterns flashed bright red with alarm. Just a comparison, Dr. Webb assured her from the front passenger seat. Those severe thunderstorms do release tremendous amounts of energy. As they drove, the alien students began to notice changes in their environment. The air felt heavy and charged, making their skin tingle. Nala found her ethereal form becoming unstable, as if the very fabric of reality was being disturbed. Why does everything feel ... wrong? She asked. Electrical charge is building up, Jake explained. When You have that much water vapor and air movement. Static electricity builds to incredible levels. As if to demonstrate his point, a brilliant flash suddenly lit up the entire sky, followed seconds later by a sound like the universe being torn apart. All 4 alien students screamed. "What was that?" Brock shouted, his stone skin actually cracking slightly from the shock. "Lightning and thunder," Jake said calmly, not even slowing down. "That was pretty close. Maybe 2 kilometers away. The sky is shooting energy weapons." Pip's voice was barely audible. "Lightning is just electrical discharge," Dr. Webb explained. "When the charge builds up enough, it has to find a way to ground itself." Another flash, closer this time, followed by thunder that rattled the vehicle's reinforced windows. "How do you survive this?" Nala asked, her form flickering so rapidly she was hard to see. "Most people go indoors during thunderstorms," Jake said. "But for storm chasers like me, this is the fun part." Fun. Kira's patterns cycled through every color she could produce. "This is nothing compared to what we're hoping to see today," Jake continued. "The atmospheric conditions are perfect for supercell development." "Supercell?" Brock asked, though he seemed afraid of the answer. "A really big thunderstorm," Jake explained. "The kind that produces the most violent tornadoes." The storm intensified. Around them, rain began falling, but it wasn't the gentle precipitation the students knew from their homeworlds. This was water falling from the sky like bullets, hitting the vehicle with enough force to create a deafening roar. Then the hail started. "What are those?" Pip screamed as chunks of ice began bouncing off the vehicle's reinforced roof. "Hail," Jake replied, raising his voice over the noise. Ice balls formed in the upper atmosphere and dropped back down. The hailstones were getting larger. What started as small pellets quickly grew to the size of golf balls, then tennis balls. "Those could kill someone," Brock observed, watching a particularly large hailstone crack the pavement beside them. "They do, sometimes," Jake nodded. "Hail kills more people than tornadoes in some years. And you drive into this voluntarily?" Nala's voice carried complete disbelief. "Best way to get good data," Jake said, checking his instruments. "Oh, this is interesting. We've got rotation developing in the mesocyclone rotation." Dr. Webb leaned forward to look at the radar display. "The storm is starting to spin," Jake explained excitedly. "This could be the big one." Through the storm-darkened sky, the students could see something that defied their understanding of how weather should behave. The massive cloud formation was indeed rotating, like a slow-motion whirlpool in the sky. "That's not possible, Pip," whispered. "Atmospheric masses can't rotate like that." "Earth's weather doesn't follow the rules you're used to," Dr. Webb said. "The combination of temperature differentials, humidity levels, and wind shear creates conditions that most worlds never experience." The vehicle's communication system crackled to life with reports from other storm chasers in the area. "Confirmed. Funnel cloud forming, 2 kilometers northeast of Highway 50. Wall cloud showing strong rotation. Possible tornado touchdown imminent. Golf ball-sized hail reported. Winds gusting to 120 kilometers per hour." Jake's excitement, that was growing with each report. "This is perfect," he said. "We're going to get some amazing footage." "Footage?" Kira asked. "Video recordings," Dr. Webb explained. "Humans document these events for scientific study." "You document apocalyptic weather?" Brock's voice cracked with strain. "It's not apocalyptic if you know what you're dealing with," Jake said. "Severe weather is just part of Earth's atmospheric system." Suddenly, Jake pulled the vehicle to the side of the road and grabbed a pair of binoculars. "There it is," he breathed, his voice filled with awe. In the distance, a gray funnel was descending from the rotating cloud base. It touched the ground and immediately began kicking up debris, creating a dark column that connected Earth to sky. "That's a tornado," Jake announced unnecessarily. The alien students stared in absolute terror at what they were witnessing. The tornado was moving across the landscape, destroying everything in its path. Trees were uprooted, buildings were demolished, and debris was being hurled through the air at impossible speeds. "It's destroying everything," Pip whimpered. "That's what they do," Jake said, taking photographs. F3, maybe F4 intensity. Beautiful example of vortex dynamics. Beautiful. Nala's form was barely visible now, flickering in and out of existence. "The raw power is incredible," Jake continued. "That tornado is probably generating winds over 200 kilometers per hour." As they watched, the tornado changed direction, beginning to move toward them. "Shouldn't we run?" Brock asked, his stone skin showing actual cracks from stress. "Nah, we're fine," Jake said. "It's still several kilometers away, and we can outrun it easily." Outrun it. Kira's patterns were now strobing so rapidly they were painful to look at. Tornadoes rarely move faster than 60 kilometers per hour across the ground, Dr. Webb explained. As long as you don't try to outrun one in the same direction it's moving, you can usually get away. The tornado continued its destructive path, and Jake continued taking measurements and photographs as if he were documenting a mild science experiment rather than witnessing what the alien students could only describe as atmospheric warfare. How often does this happen? Pip asked weakly. The United States gets about 1,000 tornadoes per year, Jake replied. This area sees the most activity because of the geography. 1,000. Brock's voice was barely a whisper. Some years more, some less, Jake shrugged. Depends on the weather patterns. As the tornado finally dissipated, Jake began packing up his equipment with obvious satisfaction. Great data collection today, he announced. That was a textbook supercell textbook, Nala managed to ask. We study these storms in school, Dr. Webb explained. Every meteorologist learns about supercell structure and tornado formation. You teach children about this. Kira's patterns had gone completely pale. Weather safety is an important part of education here, Jake nodded. Kids learn what to do during tornado warnings, how to recognize dangerous cloud formations, basic survival skills. The alien students sat in stunned silence as Jake started the vehicle and began driving toward another storm system visible on the horizon. Don't worry, he said cheerfully. That next storm looks even more promising. We might see multiple tornadoes if we're lucky. None of the alien students felt lucky. The emergency bunker was built deep underground, with walls thick enough to withstand direct nuclear strikes. Jake had rushed them there when his weather instruments detected something he called an F5 forming directly overhead. The 4 alien students huddled together in the reinforced chamber, listening to the apocalyptic sounds coming from above. The bunker shook constantly as debris slammed into the surface structures. The noise was beyond anything they had ever imagined, a continuous roar that sounded like the planet itself was being torn apart. This is it, Pip squeaked, his tiny body trembling. This is how we die. Kira's bioluminescent patterns had gone completely dark, her body's way of shutting down in extreme stress. Brock's rocky exterior was covered in stress fractures, and Nala's ethereal form flickered so weakly she was barely visible. Dr. Webb sat calmly at a computer terminal, monitoring the storm's progress. Jake was actually taking notes, documenting wind speeds and pressure readings as if this were just another day at the office. Fascinating, Jake murmured. This storm is generating sustained winds of over 400 kilometers per hour. 400. Nala's voice was barely a whisper. That's hurricane force winds multiplied by 3, Dr. Webb explained. This is why we built the bunker. How do you live like this? Brock asked, his voice cracking like his stone skin. Does any civilization survive constant attacks from the sky? Dr. Webb looked up from his computer. Attacks? This isn't an attack, Brock. This is just Tuesday. Kira managed to flicker a confused orange pattern. A normal day, Dr. Webb clarified. This storm system is actually pretty typical for this time of year. The alien student stared at him in complete disbelief. Jake looked up from his instruments. You know what? Since we're going to be here for a while, maybe it's time you understood what you're really dealing with. He walked over to a large display screen and began pulling up files. Let me show you something about Earth's history. The first image showed a massive explosion, with debris flying through space. This is the Chicxulub impact, Jake explained. 66 million years ago, an asteroid 10 kilometers wide slammed into Earth at 70,000 kilometers per hour. That would destroy all life, Pip whispered. It did destroy most life, Dr. Webb nodded. 75% of all species went extinct, including the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs? Nala asked. Jake switched to the next image, showing massive reptilian creatures that looked like they belonged in nightmares. Giant predators that ruled Earth for over 100 million years. Some were bigger than your transport ships. What happened to them? Brock asked, though he seemed afraid of the answer. The asteroid impact created global winter conditions that lasted for years, Dr. Webb explained. But life adapted. New species evolved. The ecosystem rebuilt itself. And this happened once? Kira asked hopefully. 5 times, Jake said casually. 5 major extinction events. The asteroid impact was just the most recent one. He showed them more images. Massive volcanic eruptions that covered continents. Ice ages that froze entire oceans. Atmospheric changes that poisoned the air. Each time, over 90% of all life died, Dr. Webb continued. And each time, the survivors adapted and evolved to fill the empty spaces. But surely these events are rare, Nala protested. Once every million years. Actually, Earth has been hit by extinction-level asteroids every few million years throughout its history, Jake replied. Plus ice ages every 100,000 years, supervolcanic eruptions, gamma-ray bursts, solar flares. Stop, Pip squeaked. Please stop. Dr. Webb sat down across from them. Do you want to know the real truth about why Earth is classified as a death world? The students nodded reluctantly. It's not just because Earth is dangerous, Dr. Webb said. It's because Earth has been consistently dangerous for billions of years. Every form of life here has been shaped by constant, relentless pressure to survive or die. He pulled up another screen showing evolutionary trees. Look at human anatomy. We have backup organs, 2 kidneys when we only need 1, 2 lungs, redundant blood vessels. Our brains can function even when damaged. Our immune systems fight off thousands of different diseases. That's impossible, Brock said. No species needs that much redundancy. Earth species do, Jake replied. Because if you don't have backups, you die. Our psychological structure is the same way, Dr. Webb continued. Humans can function under extreme stress, adapt to new environments rapidly, and form social bonds even with other species. Like with the predators, Kira realized, her patterns flickering weakly. Exactly, we learn to work with dangerous animals because everything here is dangerous. It was safer to make allies than enemies. The storm above them was finally beginning to weaken, but the humans continued their explanation. Every human trait that seems strange to you makes sense when you understand our environment, Dr. Webb said. We eat almost anything because food scarcity was constant. We're social because group survival was essential. We're curious because understanding our environment meant life or death. And we're adaptable, Jake added, because Earth's conditions never stay the same for long. So humans are. Nala struggled to find words. The product of 4 billion years of evolutionary warfare, Dr. Webb finished. Every generation has been tested by conditions that would exterminate most species. Pip looked up with his large eyes. That's why you're not afraid of anything. We're afraid, Jake corrected. But we're afraid of the right things and we know how to function despite fear. That's also why human children play by fighting, Dr. Webb added. And why we have sports that simulate combat. And why we tell stories about heroes facing impossible odds. Your entire culture is based on surviving the impossible, Brock realized. Now you're getting it. Dr. Webb smiled. The bunker's all-clear signal finally sounded. Jake checked his instruments one more time. Storms passed, he announced. Minimal damage to the surface structures. We can head up now. As they climbed out of the bunker, the alien students saw the aftermath of the storm. Trees were down, debris was scattered everywhere, and the landscape had been completely rearranged. But the human structures, built to withstand such events, remained mostly intact. This happens regularly, Dr. Webb said, so we build accordingly. How often? Kira asked. Severe storms. Every few months in this region. But humans live everywhere. On Earth, deserts, mountains, polar regions, islands surrounded by violent oceans. Each environment has its own challenges. And you adapt to all of them, Nala said with something approaching awe. We don't just adapt, Jake corrected. We thrive. Humans have spread to every continent, every climate zone, every possible habitat. Over the next few days, as they prepared to return to the Galactic Academy, the alien students processed what they had learned. Earth wasn't just a dangerous world, it was a world that created dangerous species, and humans were the ultimate product of that process. On their final night, they sat with Dr. Webb, Jake, Victor, and Luna around a campfire. Do you understand now why the Galactic Council was cautious about first contact? Dr. Webb asked. You're not just survivors, Pip said quietly. You're the most successful predators in the galaxy. We prefer to think of it as highly adaptive, Luna laughed. But yes, Victor added, humans are very good at surviving. Maybe too good. What do you mean? Brock asked. We're so good at adapting that we've started changing our environment instead of just surviving in it, Dr. Webb explained. That's both our greatest strength and our biggest challenge. As they prepared to board their transport ship the next morning, the alien students looked back at Earth with completely different eyes than when they had arrived. I understand now why it's called a death world, Kira said, her patterns showing a complex mix of fear and respect. And I understand why humans are the most successful species in the galaxy, Nala added. They're not just living on Earth, Brock realized. They're Earth. The transport ship lifted off, carrying for alien students who would never see the universe the same way again. They had come to study a mysterious world and instead discovered that some species are forged by forces beyond imagination. Behind them, the humans went back to their normal lives, dealing with their normal challenges, on their perfectly normal death.